Ask Reddit. What's the creepiest thing you've heard someone at your job say? 1. When I worked at a car factory, there was a dude that walked around showing other coworkers videos of him effing other women. On my first day, he also kept saying, if we both had life in prison, I'd F you in the butt. Then kept desperately trying to explain how that's somehow not gay. Dude was weird. 2. I'm a paramedic. I had a call to a nursing home, unknown situation, medical. We arrived, and none of the staff knew who had called, which is not unusual. We checked the rooms, located a juvenile, male, sitting in a room with an elderly sleeping female. He stated, quite calmly, I was going to kill her, but I called you because you're better. He wasn't a visitor. The staff didn't know how he got in or when, but it wasn't a locked unit, so he likely just walked in without anyone noticing or caring. 3. I had an old coworker talk about his wife's labiaplasty. He described it as it's like effing a teenager. Definitely made a few people do a double take. 4. I sent a text message to a manager saying I'd forgotten to do something, and he sent me a reply saying, that's okay, because you're going to repay me. The message was accompanied by a wink emoji. He's a 55-year-old man, and I'm 25. 5. I worked at a grocery store when I was 18. My dad had just passed away suddenly, and it was my first day back at work after the funeral. This weird guy, my coworker, would always go out of his way to talk to me. So he's like, I heard your dad died. I said, yeah. Then he tells me this sick story about how he used to work at a funeral home and would put the dead bodies in naughty positions. 6. I was working on an ambulance 5,150 call. Everything is going well until the male patient starts talking to himself. I asked him about a cool demon tattoo he has. He says that the demon is the one he is talking to, and then says, he wants me to kill you before we get to the hospital. I keep telling him that you seem like a good guy, just wanting to help people, but he still wants me to kill you. 7. A coworker of mine said, right before the company potluck, you can kill someone by putting eye drops in their food. 8. A guy who owned a pizza franchise once said to me, want to know why I only hire tiny girls under 21? They're easier to convince to get in my truck. 9. An older guy I work with at an office sends me a message when I'm at home saying, hey, I remember you said your favorite ice cream was half-baked. I'm in your driveway with 2 spoons. I pulled your address and phone number from the system. 10. My ex-manager commented on my daughter's friend's ass. She was 15 at the time. He also talked about how he could tell which women want to be abused. 11. First day of my new job, and a guy says to me, I could stab you right now, and nobody would find your body until the end of the day. All of this while stabbing his work cart with a screwdriver. 12. This customer always flirted with me and always gave me gifts or money, but what really threw me off was him telling me about his new job, where he'd be making $100 an hour overseas for a few months, and said when he got back he'd have enough money to buy me. 13. I work in a donut shop where we also made custom cakes. A guy calls in asking for a custom cake. I asked him the standard questions. What size would you like? Would you like it to be any particular color, etc.? He says 9 inches in black, and then starts graphically detailing his sex scene. I quickly realized he was not talking about a cake. 14. Working a slow shift at a restaurant, so the other servers and I were watching some celeb news show. They had a segment about Sandra Bullock and how she worked at an ice cream shop as a teen, and that she was robbed at gunpoint by someone who was never caught. Another server was marveling and said, damn, what if you were the guy who got to say he robbed Sandra Bullock at gunpoint? Everyone just looked at him in shock, to which he responded, I'll bet he regrets that he didn't make her take off her clothes. 15. I work in a toy store and heard a child say to his mother, I'm so thirsty, I could drink all the blood in you. I'm still shook to this day. 16. I also had a weird experience working in a toy store. A 5-year-old kid said to me, I'm going to set you on fire. There was something about the way he said it and the way he stared at me when he said it. Freaked me out. This was over 10 years ago, and I'm still disturbed by it. 17. My ex-boss said to me about the girl I was partnered with. If I got a trainer, she'd be barefoot and pregnant within 1 week. 18. I'm a male that works in dental care, and it's astonishing how many old guys say to me, I wish you were a hot young blonde girl instead. 19. When I was 22, I was working in a bar and had tables to take care of too. Before he left, a guy that was pretty drunk grabbed my arm, handed me a $100 tip, and said, I would love to drink your bath water, and would be honored if I choked on it. I worked at a culinary school a few years later, and a coworker in a different part of the school said, "Your eyes are so beautiful, I want to rip them out and store them in a mason jar on my desk to look at when I'm feeling down." Years later, when I moved to a different state and still had Facebook, the same guy messaged me many videos and pictures of himself in made lingerie, unprovoked. Then he sent me a picture of both sides of his credit card and wanted me to buy something for myself. 20. Me, a 17-year-old making a coffee behind a bar, when a somewhat 70-year-old looking man stares me down and asks, "Are you a minor?" I sure hope not. 21. I had someone call my work and ask for me. They told me they wanted to eat my heart. I kept trying to see if they needed an appointment or anything, and they just kept repeating themselves. When I said I was going to hang up, thinking that would prompt them to be like, "LOL, just joking," they just very calmly said, "That's unfortunate." 22. I heard one of my coworkers on the phone say, "Is the job done? No more bodies left?" 23. An old guy started talking about how 2 cars were drag racing near him late one night on the freeway and watched as both lost control and crashed into a nearby pole, causing them both to catch on fire. He then started laughing uncontrollably as he mentioned he just drove by and watched. Myself and everyone else listening to this just had a look of concern. 24. I was driving through Wisconsin with a new guy from work. It was my first time ever working with him. It was a pretty quiet ride most of the way. Nothing to look at besides trees and farmland. He randomly says, "This would be a great place to hide a body." Not sure if he even realized he said it out loud. I didn't say a word, just kept driving. 25. I can't remember any creepy sayings, but to me, the creepiest thing was when a coworker bit into a whole ass sweet potato. 26. I asked a coworker if he'd switch shifts with me, and he said yes. I wasn't facing him as I said thank you, and he reached over to rub my shoulder and said, "You can thank me by giving me a big kiss." I jumped so hard. He said it was a joke, but I was disgusted. I was 17, he was in his 50s. What did you think of these answers? Leave your opinion in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. We are a new channel, and we really appreciate your support. We publish stories with new topics multiple times a week. From Reddit Stories Bonanza, we wish you an amazing week.